So we're down in Narragansett, Rhode Island at Jeff Sweenor's shop. We spent the day with a handful of his employees.
Half of his crew.
Half? Dude, we saw like 5 out of 50 people.
Handful.
Okay, this is great.
This is the intro.
Closer to a handful than half?
Yeah, I think I said half.
Jeff was super generous. And
open the doors to everything.
Yeah, we looked at everything from numbers to projects to marketing to design, and it was...
we're literally closing his shop tonight.
We are, yeah, because we're doing another podcast. You guys stay tuned for that, guest. But we talk a lot about... Actually, I'm just going to lead right into the fact that he left Rhode Island and moved to Florida for his kids and took a sabbatical from this and came back guns blazing.
Yeah.
Hard. And went back into this market with a totally different approach, as you guys see.
Jeff's been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
And he kind of talked about his evolution in this industry, how he had to put his kids first. It's in how he's basically hired the tough jobs.
Yeah.
And it's strengthened his company.
You guys are going to love this one.
It's a really good one. And we're live.
We are.
Narragansett.
Are we in Narragansett?
We are in Narragansett.
Oh,
yeah.
all right. That's right. I did put it in my GPS as Narragansett. You know when I pulled in the the GPS brought me to the roller rink?
Oh, the other way.
And I could see your sign, and there was no way to get through the roller rink. So I went out, and then I drove through the storage unit.
Oh yeah,
parking lot. I'm like, this is obnoxious. There's no way he has all his guys doing this.
No.
And then we left, and I was like, oh,
right there.
I came right in.
Yeah, well, you have a different GPS than I.
Yeah,
it was easy. It's a great area, though.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
So you guys got to see the jobs down on Ocean Road. I mean, how close is that? It's so we're so spoiled.
Yeah,
we're 5 minutes away to most of our jobs.
I'm 11 for most of mine, so I'm comfortable. We basically have 2 areas. We have Boston, where Benny takes care of them, and then I take care of Metro West.
Yeah,
and I think they're all 11 minutes from each other.
Right.
I'm with you. Like traffic, you're like, what? What? I gotta.
So for those who don't know, we're down at Jeff's shop, Sweenor Builders. We said Narragansett, but we didn't say
it'd be in the intro.
You don't have to correct me. Just let me go with it.
How far is that? How long was the drive for you guys?
An hour and 20.
Hour and 30, yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
That's not bad without traffic.
No, it's perfect.
128 can be hell.
Can be a bear, yeah.
Yeah, I left at like 8.
It's weird. I put the GPS, put it in Waze like the night before, and then I had it on all morning to make sure I wasn't like too far off. Like I was like, all right, I got an extra 30 minutes right now to go get something else done.
Right.
And then I was just watching it. Everything
because I was constantly adjusting for traffic.
Of John's schedule. I have 30 more minutes.
Well, yeah.
Let me fill it.
Yeah, like I've always had something to do.
I know.
It's just like I didn't want to be
It's
late.
like when we went up to Kevin's and we were sitting there outside of your job, John's job.
Oh yeah.
We're like, all right, we should probably get on the road. How long does it take? And was it 2 hours or something at that point?
Yeah.
We're like, what are we just sitting here talking for? We should have been driving about an hour ago.
So we've seen a lot today. We actually started here in the shop and went over to your other office. You have another office like 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
And I think we learned more about Jeff than we thought. But I
only talked to Jeff for like 5 minutes.
I know.
We talked to his entire company.
Right. Everyone had great things to say, and that's the God honest truth. But yeah. I think one of the more interesting things that I learned is that you basically took a sabbatical from here.
Yeah. So it was probably 2008, and my son Ryan was in eighth grade, and we kind of had some friends that did some unique educational things. So Ryan grew up skiing up at Sunday River, and there was basically a full-time school up there called Gould Academy that he considered going to and boarding there and living there and going to school and skiing. And then you go to school on the side. And his other passion, his other love was baseball. And we considered doing that as well. So we had gone down to a place in Florida called IMG Academy. And we went down and we visited, and he loved it. And he was just, that was it. That was the decision. But we really didn't want to break apart as a family, because, you know, I love my kids and I want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
So we decided to move down there. And I had, at that time, I had purchased a plot of land, a 24-acre piece, and I had it all subdivided, and it was going to be 16 homes there.
Where, here or down in Florida?
In Rhode Island.
Okay.
Yep. So my plan was to basically continue the business and fly back and forth. So I did that for the first year.
That's aggressive.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I thought we were aggressive,
right.
but that's
so I had,
pretty good.
We had, you know, so this was a year in the making. So all the guys, our team, you know, we weren't that big then. We probably had 15 guys. And I basically laid it all out for everybody, like 15 years in advance. And I said, you know, this is your opportunity to go out on their own, to do different things. And so a couple of them went out on their own, and a couple of them went to work for those who went out on their own. So basically 3 companies formed from that. So there were 3 guys that all had their, you know, they're all about your age at that time. And so it was great. So I said, you know, I'll feed you the work. The work will still keep coming in. And then I was going to fly back and forth and do this subdivision. And all the houses it was kind of a retirement community. So all the houses were exactly the same. So it was really pretty easy to do. And at that time, Southwest flights were so easy. I'd fly out of Tampa. I'd come up, I'd go from Florida to Rhode Island on Tuesday morning, and then I'd fly home Thursday night. So I got the best of both worlds, but then in 2010, the market just
dropped
dried up to nothing. So these houses that I had, there was nothing happening. So, you know, I made the decision.
They're built at this point?
I had put so in the first year, we put the road, so I had a site work company at the time, and we put the road in, and then I built a model, and I probably had 4 more foundations in ready to go. So we did our first open house, and then it seemed like the week later, just kaboom. So nothing, crickets, open houses every week, nothing. So I decided that the best thing to do was to kind of put the whole thing on ice and wait it out. So I started building in Florida. I went to work for a guy that was basically a renovation guy, a remodeling guy. He had the opportunity to go into a subdivision. And subdivisions down there are like, you know, monstrosities.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a semi-custom, and he really didn't have the knowledge for the new construction. So I sort of started it and ran with it, and I probably built, you know, 25 to 30 houses over the course of that year. And so the long story is that we sort of shortened the trip. Ryan ended up coming back here. He did half of his junior year and his senior year here. So I took a hiatus for about 2.5 years, and then came back and put the sign back out and ramped it back up.
Yeah, you did.
But you didn't just ramp it back up. You took it to a totally different level when you came back, and that's what we've learned today is that like before you left. I know Johnny had asked a question like, where were you at? Like, what was your, whether it's price point or your market? Like, what was it before?
What was your bread and butter? Like,
Sure.
What were you doing?
Well, you know, when I started not knowing anything, and in construction, so no experience, so the only way I could bust into this thing was to build a spec house. So that's how I took myself, and I built a spec house at my ability at the time, which was really about a 1,200 square foot ranch with a truss roof. You know, I mean, as basic as basic could be.
Sure.
And we did everything. And then, then you kind of bring in the clients, right? You try to generate business from that spec house. And then I wanted to go to the next level. So I never sat still. I could never stay at one level and say, hey, I'm pretty comfortable building 24 by 36 colonials because I'm good at them. So I ended up, you know, jumping to the next level.
But can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
How did you get, like, I'm really aggravated with myself right now because
he's been aggravated with himself all day.
You know, that's probably what drives me. Is that like, I watched the documentary on McDonald's and like the money's not in the hamburgers.
Yeah.
It's in the land for
Yeah.
franchising those McDonald's.
Yeah.
I'm all about building.
Yeah.
But I also want to have better control over things.
Right.
So like we visited a couple of your jobs today where
Yeah.
you own the land.
Right.
You got that first spec.
Yeah.
Was that financed through you? How did you?
No.
I think everyone's going to listen to this. What's that?
How long ago was this first spec?
So we're talking 1990.
Okay.
It's like 100 years ago.
So I wasn't even in high school yet.
I
I was in middle school.
I was
two.
4.
You were too.
I just was trying to piece this. Obviously, I wasn't there for any of the conversation today, so trying to piece where this came in.
Yeah. So, I mean, no. The answer is no. I didn't have any money. I had nothing. I had no money.
So who financed it?
So I partnered with different guys that had money, and I said, "Hey, I got an opportunity here. Here's the lot. We're gonna put this lot at this price, and I'm gonna build this house for this price. We're gonna put that together, and we'll split the profit."
So did you take? So this is definitely right up my alley because, so like right now, my first year, I do probably I want to say 65% spec.
How many?
65% of what I
Okay.
do is spec. So
Yep.
we did 2 last year. We have 4 set for this year.
Right.
And they're all different investors.
Right. Right.
So, but I didn't want to take kind of like an equity part
Sure.
in it because I didn't want to assume the risk my first year.
Yeah.
You get me? Like I need to pay bills. I want to make sure, everything happens the right way and
Yeah.
it's guaranteed funds. I don't want to be waiting for the house to sell or if it doesn't be attached to that.
Right.
You get me? So it was like I wanted to take my my management fee, which I would put as a line item, just like
Yep.
we saw some of your estimates today. It's identical,
Right.
just different font. Let's
Sure,
be honest,
sure.
than what I have. And it was like my management's under general conditions, so
Yep.
it's right now it's $50K, and that's like $1,500 a week for
Sure.
the spec
for you to manage the project.
for me to manage the project, and then I'll make 13% in the bottom line,
Yep.
basically across all the line items, including materials, and I exempt management from that.
Yep.
So I'm not double dipping.
Right. Right.
So I have that, and I have the option. I was presented the option with the investors to say, hey, you can defer that 13%, and that would be your equity into the deal.
Yeah.
And my first year, I just said no. I wanted to be like, my business mind was like, no.
Yeah.
But I wanted to take that risk, but I
Yeah.
was like, there's enough risk going off in your own year one.
Minimize your downside.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but now I'm like, so you just went into that deal. Can you break that? It was similar to mine, or were you getting paid, or were you doing like a renovation on the side to keep that money in for your?
When I first started, I mean, I'm going to people and selling myself. I didn't have that book of business or that experience level to say I'm a seasoned veteran at this. So, I really had to pull my shorts down to get somebody to buy into my philosophy. And I said, I'll build a house at cost, and we'll split it. And at the end of the day, I might have gotten a paycheck out of it.
Yeah.
And
But there was
the
a
other
lot of
guy-
risk involved.
Yeah, there definitely was. Because I have to tell you, I never make money at spec houses, never. Because
I feel your pain.
yeah, even now, I mean, I bet you I've built 100 spec houses, and I mean, I might have made, 20 grand on the most. I never make, because the reason is, and I can see it in both of you guys, is that I put too much into it.
You overbuild
Yeah.
it.
I overbuild constantly. And, my wife every time I say, honey, we're going to do a spec house. And she's like,
Rolls her eyes.
yeah, she said, and I say to her, this time I know my numbers and we're going to stick to it. She just says, yeah, right. So,
Well, it's so hard, but why do it?
well, so there's the holy grail, right? So why do it? So the Idea House that we did this past year and we did the year before, those were both spec houses
Yeah.
in theory. And why do it? Because you get to put a business card out there in real life for people to touch and to see.
In a neighborhood.
And yeah, so the why is because that you use that for your marketing to draw your client base for your custom builds. So somebody comes in and says, this house is great. I love it. Maybe it's not the right location. I can build you another one in a different location.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to use that. So I used to do the open houses, and I do the open houses not because I wanted to, eliminate the broker fee. I went to the open houses so I could meet clients and I could
market feedback.
so many people go to open houses. They're not necessarily out to buy a house. It's a Sunday and they're bored.
neighbors.
And they go shopping around, you know, like let's go to open houses. So people are curious. So my whole career, all of my spec houses, you know, I made money on a few and I lost money on a few. I lost money on a lot of them, a lot of them. But I always gained. It's just another house in your portfolio, and it gives you the ability to jump a level, you know. So you don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to build a 5,400 square foot, you know, some of the crazy stuff we're doing. You just don't do that. Yeah. So the only way you can do it is to convince people that you have the ability to do it, and the only way you can convince people that you have that ability is to do it.
Now,
So,
did you partner with architects that were local to you? That way you'd also be in their Rolodex for some of those designs?
you know, I seemingly miss the entire boat with architects. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. And, you know, I'm always waiting for that phone to ring with an architect who's going to unveil this unbelievable house and, you know, let's go. And I guess that's why we do our own design, and that's how we've evolved into that. And, you know, we still do it. We just don't do that much of it. And, you know, for better or for worse, it's, you know, just the way it's unveiled.
No, do you think, you can jump in whenever. I just get so hot.
He's fired up.
Yeah. Well,
Johnny's definitely fired.
It's definitely because it's very similar to where I am right now, what
Yeah.
you've experienced.
Yeah.
So I get to cheat right now.
Right.
Like, I get to figure out what it is that you do, how you did it, where maybe you failed, and maybe accentuate some of the good parts. But do you find, like right now I'm debating on, I have Vintage Builders, and that's the brand. And I'm debating on basically splitting that and having a second identity that's Vintage Development.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, my question to you is, did you ever feel like that it stunted you having specs as your kind of model or your kind of backbone of what you built, and it hindered you from doing custom homes?
Well, I never felt as though it hindered me from doing custom because, again, I was always trying to climb that ladder. But in hindsight, so when I first started, I started as a framer. So to me, the only way I made money as a framer was speed. So I was way faster than I was accurate when I first started. I was an animal. It was an athletic event. You know, it was all out. We would frame a house in a week. And so I say to myself, you know, if I could only roll that back a little bit and just settle for that house and be proficient at it and do the same ones over and over, you know, I could make money at that. But I didn't want to compromise the brand I was trying to build. Yep. So to answer your question from my perspective, I would have said, have a separate company, but don't have your name attached to it. Just be an anonymous development company. And if you like the product, you put the Vintage Builder sign in front of it. But if you don't like the product, you're into it just to make money, and you've got to build to a lower standard.
I mean, that's what I love about the spec is that, you know, forget about the architects and that stuff. I'm, like you said, you're able to put that business card on a corner lot.
Yeah.
I'm able to take, like, our investors will give us X amount of dollars. There's no questions about what we can build. It's just like, here, build me a product that's has this many bedrooms,
right,
this amount of square footage,
right,
and it will sell. And I had to put my name behind it, which is I get to put out a cool product, meaning the signature. When we drive around the neighborhood here, you don't have to have a sign out front. We know which one is one of your homes. Like, that's what I'm going for. So I don't think, like, point is that, like, we talked a little bit at your office about square footage costs, and like, I think I asked one of your people, is that before you went to Florida, I think that's the breaking point, is really when you turned and ratcheted it up a bit for quality, just execution, just the whole, maybe a better photographer.
Can we go back? I'm going to interrupt. Can we go back to that before Florida? Like, so you, in 1990, you did your first spec, and then from there, like, what were you consistent on doing specs all the way up until you left for Florida? Because your product is like, from my understanding, your product is much different now than it was before you left from Florida.
Yeah. So there's, you know, the answer to that is a little bit complicated, because what you've got to factor into this is the bell curve of the economy. So I started in a downturn, ramped up through my entire career was on the way up, and then it leveled off, and then it went down hard, and so now it's coming back again. So I've experienced things through those 2 cycles, which is pretty important. When we got up to that point, I just got to where I wanted to be, and we were building those, we were building pretty nice houses, and we were probably at about $300 a square foot.
Okay.
Maybe that was probably about the golden number. This is the mid 2000s, and and then we obviously made a decision to change and move to Florida for a bit, but then the cycle tipped off, so all of that stuff was gone. It was all gone, so it was reset. So now when we started back up again, I sort of picked up about where we left off, and just climbed from there. And obviously,
did you have a target? Like I think Nick was saying, like from the photos, it looks like it's a much higher price point that you targeted.
Yeah.
Was that accurate?
Well, yeah. I mean, my goal has always been to be the very best and to build the very best. And so as part of that, you could take a house of any one of those magnitudes down there, and there's probably a $200 per square foot swing in that house, depending on whether the cabinetry is custom or whether it's store-bought, whether the heating system has got radiant or if it's got, ERV. And, there's so many components that you can add into it, which toggle your price per square foot in a different direction. And, we just happen to roll, we try to incorporate everything in and kind of go with the theory that, hey, this is our standard. This is the way we build. We don't compromise on it. We're not going to switch to an inferior product because it's not in your budget. We try to set that tone and then command that, and then hopefully the clients bite into that.
And that was like when you came back from Florida, you had realized that economy's going up, and you set that as, here's our new standard, and we're going to build to this, and let's hope it sticks.
Yeah, and that probably, so, we started back up at about 2012, and here we are in 19. So over those 7 years, the first year was probably a little bit modest in what the market would tolerate, and then, we just sort of kept climbing a little bit. And that parcel that you went to today down on Ocean Road, that was sort of an opportunity for me. I got in on it and developed those 3 lots. But one thing I didn't do is I didn't mandate that I be the builder.
Yeah, I don't know how you didn't do that.
I gave those people the option, and it was a risk. It was a real risk. And I remember the first one, the folks who bought it, who I love dearly. They're wonderful. But they, the first out of the gate, they were like, yeah, well, we're gonna shop this around, and we're gonna look. And I was, it was just a stomach. But we, through the relationship, we were able to, we worked together, and that was a huge springboard for us. Huge springboard.
What do you think was the turning point for you being able to kind of command, as you mentioned, your standard? Because I think that's something that a lot of people run into. I just have been trying to get to that point, and had a job yesterday that I talked to these guys about, that basically the people wanted to cut budget.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it wasn't what I wanted to be doing.
Right.
And they ended up going with somebody else based on price. But for me, I was fine letting the job walk, because it was getting to a point where I know what they wanted wasn't what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And I think that there's a fine line there also, where you don't want to come off as arrogant to your customers, but I think that it's very important to stand by your values, that this is the type of work that you want to be doing. What was there, like a confidence thing? Was it just that this is the market that you want to be in? That you were able to kind of implement that switch to, hey, this is our standard, and we don't really compromise on that?
That's a great question, Tyler. And, the answer is, it's a multi-platformed answer, but, the long and the short of it is, I didn't start getting that respect and that ability to have that confidence until I got gray hair. So my point to you is that you gotta, it's gonna come. It's gonna come for all 3 of you, and you just have to be patient with it, and you just have to put your time into it, because you're not going to, if somebody doesn't believe in you, you're not going to change their mind. You have to earn that. And, so that's one point, is just the longevity of your career and your company and the history that you create. And so the other thing is that once you start to get that, and I'm going to use an analogy that may be a little bit strange, but like imagine you're back in high school and, there's girls around and the girl that you didn't pay attention to, that you ignored, she liked you the most, right? So now I have, we can have such confidence with our clients, and we have so many opportunities to get in front of clients that I really don't try hard. I used to sell like it was bleeding out of me. My eyes were bleeding with, buy from me. We got to, and now I just said, you know what, we're just not for everybody. If you don't like that, it's really it's a reverse effect from a sales perspective. When you have the product behind you and you have the team behind you and you have the portfolio behind you, it really becomes easy and you let it sell yourself. So when just like for you guys today, right? So I kind of have sold you on me and my company by letting you out into the company. So they did the selling for me. So the same thing when I'm walking through with clients on a job, I say little. I let one of the project managers dictate it, or Kristen. Kristen is just awesome with people. Ann is awesome. I'll let them do
everybody
it.
is.
Yeah.
There wasn't one person I met and I was just like, I want to steal them.
Right.
I want to steal them.
Right.
I want to steal them. Not in like a bad way. I was just like, God, man, he's got a great. You get the same feeling?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute. The people, right? We've all been in this business. There's so many egos and so many idiots out there that say they can do this and can't do that. But to come here to work for us, and this is just my own personality, you got to be a rock star person first, right? Let's not even talk about your skill set. You got to be a great person.
Yeah.
And that's because that's just who I am, and that's what I like. I like happy people. I like everybody enjoy their work, and I hate these contagious attitudes that become cancerous within the company. So I'm just naturally gravitated towards really great people. And great people attract great people. So you experienced it today. You probably saw half the company, and and everybody says that. Everybody compliments us on that. Everybody says, I haven't met one person I didn't like yet. I said, same here, and that's the way it's going to stay.
Well, it's funny. You can't fake that. Like, you can't set it up. You can't fake it. You can't cheat. Like, meeting these people on their ground, whether it's in the office or on this job site, they genuinely are passionate about what they're doing. Right. And then meeting subs and letting them just, like, off the cuff, riff.
Yeah.
Like, Nick was in a house for 2 seconds, saw the painter, and they went down in the basement to talk cabinet, like, sprays. And it was just like, they were gone, and then we were upstairs. It just, there's something contagious about that environment.
Yeah.
And I think you attract the right people by who you are as a leader.
Yeah.
Almost like, I think you also carry a lot of that sports analogy with you. You played crew, whatever, when you were younger. And it's if you build a great team, then that is the huge jumping off point.
Right.
Tyler, I don't know. Obviously, you weren't able to come today, but we basically met. I didn't realize Jeff's company was as large as it is, but we met a marketing director, 3 in-house designers, 2 out of 5 project managers, and then you have a team of almost 30, 40 carpenters.
Yeah. Yep.
We met some guys in the shop too.
Yep.
And the guys in the shop. So it's interesting to see, like, Kristen was our chauffeur.
And a couple clients. Oh, one client, right? One client.
Did you?
One client, yeah.
She was home.
The first house with the pool house and the new garage
Oh,
with the
nice.
timber frame.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was
She was
home.
super nice.
The 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But it's, like, interesting, like, for, because Jeff, we talked about it before, is that, you hired a marketing director because it made sense to, like, you were doing all the marketing before.
Right.
And what I'm seeing, like, kind of outlining, I keep using Florida as a reference, but coming back from Florida, 2012, 2019, from there, you've kind of divvied up the tasks that, you were doing yourself that really maybe you were decent at, but it wasn't what you wanted to do.
Right.
And I know I can relate to that. It's like, now Kristen runs your marketing.
Yeah.
And then you have Bruce, who's a rock star. He's a CPA.
Total rock star.
Came from the lumber industry, and and he said it. He's like, when I show Jeff numbers, he's like the first person to like answer a text message.
Looking out the window, like he blacks out.
He says it's a squirrel. So like I'm a dog, right? A squirrel runs by. I'm like, boom.
Yeah,
oh God, he wants to talk. But he wants to talk margins and
we could have talked numbers all day with him.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah.
And
it was.
And I don't. That's not what I like. I don't like spreadsheets, but I genuinely do appreciate it to the point where I don't want to do it. And, we just recently hired a project manager, and that's been a lot of his role is to kind of manage what we have in place and figure out like a good path. But you're the second builder that we've actually had on the show, and I've talked to that has brought someone in like Bruce.
Yeah.
Where he's, he had the lumber background, but it wasn't because he had the lumber background that he was coming into construction. It was his knowledge with numbers and being able to. He kept using the analogy like being the bad guy. Yeah. Being like, hey,
you got to pull the reins back.
You got to pull the reins back. Yeah. I'm the horse that wants to run, and he's like, whoa.
Right.
I love that.
But it's so. I mean, all great points, and we're fortunate that we are able to get to that point where. We could hire somebody to do the marketing, hire somebody to do the accounting, and hire somebody to do the interior design, whereas you guys all probably wear many of those hats now, and I did too. But it's a timing thing, and it's knowing when's the right decision to hire this one. And
that was what I
do you hire the marketing director first, or do you hire the money guy first?
Did it happen on the plane ride back from Florida? You were just like, I'm going to hire this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and then you came back and was like, you, and you, let's go.
Yeah.
Well,
it kind of did. I came back with guns a-blazing. But you know what? So it gave me the opportunity to sort of reset, right? So I had a pretty thriving company, and then all of a sudden, we dialed it back, and I got to start over again. So all the things that I didn't like, I could change, and I had that reset. But yeah, it's hard. And every one of those steps, believe me, was a heartache, when Bruce came on and we talked, we started talking compensation. I'm like, you want what? and so the conversation went something like, well, if I can get you to here, would I be worth this? And I said, if you get me to there, yeah, absolutely, you're worth that.
How long did that take?
That took longer than we thought, but it probably took 3 years.
And you look back at that as what kind of decision?
Very good decision. Yeah. But probably one of the best decisions that I made, because if you're not right financially, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Reisinger said the same thing. Yeah. He hired a CPA.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's proven to be worth its weight in gold. I'm not advising that everybody goes out and hires a CPA. I mean, Bruce just happened to be a former CPA. I mean, I'm
How
not
long
saying...
till Nick has a CPA
on the ride home?
I already put the thing on LinkedIn. I was like, any good CPAs?
Well, it has to be somebody that understands construction too. Yeah. So that's a whole nother learning curve. And
I got to add that to the list of things they need to know.
Yeah, you not only need to be a CPA, but you need to be
maybe Bruce wants to move to Boston.
So funny thing on how the whole Bruce thing worked out is that. You guys, I know Tyler, you, Kuchen Brothers, right? That's the group down there. Well, Arnold Lumber Company up here, they're very tight with Kuchen Brothers. They do a lot of networking together and sharing. And so Bruce was the CFO, and then he was the CEO. And so the Arnold family was going through a transition where the owner, Art Arnold, was retiring and his daughters were coming in. So Art wanted kind of keep Bruce around to transition his daughters, and Bruce was kind of like, all right, I've already done all of this in my life, and I'm ready to move on, and Art's just stay on for a little bit. So I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to go out and help our 5 best customers, right? Help them financially. Just come in. So Bruce said to me one day, he came over and he said, when we started at the same time in the industry, but he came over and he said, hey, what if I come once a week and help you with your books? And I said, yeah, okay, what's the catch?
Yeah, like
And
how much you have to steal
he's like,
from me?
no, really, that's, and Art Arnold. So talk about a pioneer guy. Talk about forward thinking. I'm going to go out and help 5 of my best customers.
They make more money, they spend more money.
Well, exactly. So there's a higher calling, but that's genius.
It's unbelievable.
That's freaking genius.
Yeah.
So once a week, Bruce would come in, and you talk about me shutting my phone off. I'd be like all ears, ready to go, and we throw out. And I was a mess. We had just not. I didn't grow up in a financial background. I made candy. I grew up making candy. I knew nothing about numbers. I went to school for phys ed. I was, so. My wife Sheila was the brains of the operation when it came to the finance. She was great at watching the purse, so she wouldn't let me get too far away. But and together we muddled through, but nothing like we are now in terms of all of our balance sheet, all that makes all sense now. And I'm not motivated by money. I never have been. I'd rather build more and
but I think
do a
that's
better
important
job.
is that like you're a creative person, and the fact that you're not motivated by money, someone needs to not be motivated by it, but like you're not, like the fact that you're not motivated by it does the same thing where it's like, all right, whatever, like I'm not going to go backwards and figure out if we were profitable. Let's just move on to the next job.
Right.
This house is rocking and rolling.
But it's the same as like change orders. It's like I won't do a change order because I want to get the next part of my project done.
Right.
But yet you do need to make sure
Right.
that ends meet at the end of the day.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if someone's not paying attention to that, and you're not a numbers guy, then it 100% makes sense.
Right.
I'm not saying to hire a CPA, but to have someone that's in charge of that.
Yeah.
And that's what I talked a lot about with Bruce today, is that I every single day I take more and more off my plate because I am way too emotionally attached to some of the decisions that I don't need to be.
Right.
Like
Right.
the fact that my client wants to spend X amount of money on a product and I think it's too much, so I'm like freaking out about asking them, hey, it's $29,000 for that tile.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to reply back like, great, can I order it today? And I'm sitting there like trying to figure out how do I value engineer this?
Anticipating, yeah.
Or anticipating the fight. And
Right.
it's like, I shouldn't have, like, I need to remove myself from
Yeah.
that because all I'm doing is delaying the
Right.
project because I'm not getting the answer.
And I mean, that's a great point. And Bruce does all of our budgeting. So we have so much historical data into our budgets that we're constantly refining them. So we're never very far off. But the confidence that he has in those numbers and he presenting it to people, and I mean, it all makes sense. So he'll fool around with me and say, he'll take a project and I'll look at it and he'll say, Jed, give me your best guess. What do you think that's going to run? And now, meanwhile, he's already done a complete budget on it, right? And I look at it, and this was a big interior renovation that we did just started recently, and I looked at it, and I said, face value on that job. I mean, off the top of my head, back of the napkin, I'm going to say it's $350,000. He shows me, and it's $550,000. Like how can I be that far off? I do this every day. Right? And it's just amazing. But the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Right.
So we show the client the spreadsheet, and if we started at the bottom, we would have been fired. Right? Yeah. So we start at the top and we say, this is permits, this is excavation, this is foundation, this is framing lumber, these are windows, and right along everybody's like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, that looks good. Yeah, HVAC. Then I don't see anything that really shocks me. You get to the bottom and you're like, whoa, how did that add up to that?
Yeah.
And that's the only number they don't like. All the other numbers were fine, but I got to add them up, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we talked about. It's like selling a fixed cost or just like a lump sum. Here's, this is the project cost. Not having that, not that it's not it's not that you're not trustworthy. It's that they just want to understand those costs and like being able to look, like you said, when you look at every line item, there is nothing that sticks out. Yeah, all of that makes sense. I just didn't add all of that up.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then you add it up and it's like, all right, now I get it. And and from there, it's just, that's why I have such an issue with like the path of non-transparency with clients financially, and then versus the path of transparency, and where every job we've been transparent on has been wildly successful compared to the countless projects I lost because I did a lump sum bid.
Yeah, yeah. So do you guys work? Do you work cost plus? Do you work contract? How do you?
I think earlier I said I was probably split 50-50, but it's probably 75% cost plus, 25%.
Yeah.
And it's because we're transitioning into the cost plus model,
Right.
because we've been so unsuccessful with like incomplete plans that we are trying to bid the project, and then it's just a change order central.
Right.
And it's just like, all right, this is a nightmare. We're gonna dig into our budget as accurately as we can. Here's our budget. This is our expected cost, and we're just gonna update that stuff as we get numbers back.
Sure.
And just communicate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my remodels are cost plus.
Yeah.
But then with the spec houses, what I've done is, to get on $1 million job, to get $200,000 as my fee, 20%, which is my management, and 13%. Getting $200,000 and not acquiring any risk of that project isn't like they don't want it. They want you to have some risk in the deal.
Sure.
So what's happening now is I'm going to lock in my fee, which is my management, and lock in my OMP at the bottom, and then everything else is cost plus because I can't bid a project the way the economy is, where Masonite's going to raise their prices 4 times in the year, and think I'm just basically giving money away. So the deals I have now with the specs is that it's an open slide rule.
Right.
Meaning I'm going to be aggressive like I always am. And it's just where it falls, and I'll keep you up to date as we do each pay rec.
Sure.
It's the same formula that we do for our customs and our renovations. The cost to complete, each line item's there, how we're doing, and it's just a balance sheet on each project. The problem is I do all that. The only thing that my bookkeeper does, she's remote. So I hired her probably too late, like everything I do. Like it's weird. I hired a bookkeeper. I hired a CPA. But then he just looked at my stuff from afar, but didn't do anything.
Didn't dive into it.
And I was like, so I gave him access to my Dropbox, gave him access to the credit card, bank statements. I only have one account, which is through Riverhead, which is probably my biggest account.
Right.
And everything else is basically cash. And that's my choice. I want to make sure I'm not getting too far away and trying to use that money somewhere else. And I found that I was paying $400 a month for that service that was like, what am I doing? And then it took me, I was doing all of it, payroll, all that, and I was just like, what am I doing? So it's actually Columbia Construction out of Natick. They shared an office with my old company, and she hit me up one day. I was like venting on social media, and she was like, I was like, because what happens is, let's be honest, we're all creative, but the priority is production. And then the next priority is client expectations, because those go hand in hand. So those both come first. I will make 1,500 phone calls before I sit down and open QuickBooks. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, it's the last priority.
But QuickBooks has to happen. So it got to a point where I was invoicing instead of every 2 weeks that I prided myself on. I didn't want to lose production, so I was not doing the invoice. So it would turn into 6 weeks.
Then you hit a cash flow issue. It's like we all do it.
And it's just, but then you're like, I know I'm profitable. Because I know I'm taking each draw, I'm pulling out this amount from my profit, blah, blah. I'm able to pay for insurance, but I'm like, there's nothing in the account because I'm using that money because I'm not paying. I'm paying subs on time, but I'm using it my profit. So I was like, Columbia, I was bitching one day. It was like a Friday. I'm like, I got to do invoicing. And they were like, hey, we have a woman that comes in part-time and just reviews everything. And I was like, I took it at a grain of salt. And I was like, I got this. Like the pride part of it was just like, no, I got this. And then like it took 3 weeks to 4 weeks to sink in, which I'm totally, regretting. And then I called her, sat down with her, and Benny, my partner, came down. We sat down in the coffee shop, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm $35 an hour. I do like 5 hours a week. Just basically take everything, reconcile QuickBooks, and then we basically email everything to accounting, and she sees it all, I see it all, and it goes right into an invoice. So I don't have to put any of that in. So she saw how I do all my invoices very, very detailed, meaning if I have 15 line items from the lumber Riverhead, it's like invoice 1105, this date, this amount, and then it's all in that tab. So that way I can rectify and reconcile that statement for that year on that project. And she saw all that, so then she started basically mimicking it, which is how you want any good employee. Basically, let's see how you do it. I mean, obviously you have your own systems, but not. You kind of get spooked if someone comes in like, well, I'm going to rewrite my quotes this way. And I'm like, just for me to be comfortable, it's like I like to see the same way it's in my spreadsheet, my general conditions, like portage on first. Like you said, if you start from the bottom, I'm like, well, just start with the Porta John on the invoice, okay? Just
$120 this month. Next line item.
Just start easy and work our way down, and that's just the formula. So that way, when people see it, they know it.
Yeah.
They get familiar with it and they understand it. And that's what she does every 2 weeks, and then she sends it to us and says, "Hey," emails it to us. "Is this good to go?" Sends it.
Yeah.
All I gotta do is just ping somebody and be like, "Hey, you good with that invoice?" Make sure, like, if it waits a week,
Yeah.
then I can just get a check.
Right.
And it's like, thank God.
Yeah.
You know, and then I think she's $1,400 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, is basically that's what it is.
Right.
And that's every week, every 2 weeks. I'm like, perfect. Thank you so much. You know, and she's a 1099.
Exclamation.
Yeah. Smiley, whatever, you know.
Right. Emoji. Yeah, I think I told Bruce when I left, I was like, this conversation's certainly not over. I know Kristen has us on a tight schedule, but I'm going to be back in this office not because I want anything more than just to like understand his process.
Yeah.
And not because I want to do it, just to see like I always compare. I talk with every builder I can. Like, do you have a spreadsheet? How do you build your budgets? Like, I'll ask all those questions because I just want to take like the best out of everything.
Right.
And being able to like combine that into one thing. But at the same time, it's like, all right, I want to understand it, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the same thing with the admin and, accounting. It's like, I can do it. I did it. Tyler, I think you did it as well. But like since then, it's like that has to be off our plate.
Yeah. 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 So, it goes back to when the theory of, well, do you do what you're good at and then hire out what you're bad at, or should you just learn what you need to learn, even though you don't like it, and embrace it? And I just hated that theory, and I just constantly, I like building the team. I like, progress. I like the marketing part of it.
Right.
And so those are the things that I run with. And, obviously we that decision to hire Bruce was, to backfeed the problem areas that I didn't like. So.
And I think a lot of people are reluctant to admit that. Like
the pride thing comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know my books.
Yeah.
I know I
don't want to
make
admit
a ton of money.
I know my costs.
Yeah.
I know my costs. Right?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. End of the year comes and you're like, I did how much work for
It's like,
how much
why
money?
am I paying this much money in taxes?
It's also the fact that like you need help. Let's just be honest. You can't do it all, but we all have that part of our mindset that says, no, I'll take on more. Mm-hmm. Whether it's that yes mentality, whatever, you take it on. It was a simple thing as like we talked about insurance the other day. And it was just like, all right, well, I can't tackle that. What it needs, like me devoting 6 to 10 hours on insurance to have it requoted, answer the questions, and it could be the difference of $10,000 of just overhead. Right. Do I want to do that? And it was like to have Emily, her call me and we just go over and it's like, we should have another quote on that. Like I would a subcontractor. If I want to check a number,
right,
give me that number, check with that person, kind of do all the legwork for me, and I'll jump on a conference call. And she did all that.
Dude, that was weeks ago we talked about it, and I told you how I have to quote it because I'm being classified wrong, and that I haven't touched it because I'm like I don't have someone.
She saved me $10,000. I called you right afterwards. It was like $10,000 on my. It was like last year I paid 37 to 45 or whatever, and it was going up to like 49 when I got the renewal form.
Yeah,
and I knew the guy, and like I thought that was my saving grace. Meaning, I coach his kid. He's a townie. They've been around for 40 years. Like, he'll take care of me. Right?
John called me. He was like, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
I was like, what's up? He goes, what are you paying insurance?
Well, because we breezed upon it one day, and I was like, he's got 13 employees. He's paying $61,000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
That brief conversation we had, and I was like doing the math in my head. I'm like, I have no employees. Everything is management, and I'm paying 45. I'm like, I'm way too close to you.
Yeah. And I'm wrong. And I was wrong.
And you were wrong.
We went back and they were like, hey, you're classified. All your employees are classified at 7%. And I'm like, well, I mean, they shouldn't be. We're not, whatever. We're not going to get into an insurance.
So you're
discussion.
talking workers' comp rates?
Yeah. And I was like, wait, I have clerical. I have project managers.
Sure.
I have
Those
finished
are
guys that are
level,
strictly in the shop. Strictly in the shop's 3.7%.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm looking, and I reached out to my insurance company. I'll put them on blast. They were like, hey, listen, you know, you want
Because they listen. You're right.
I know, right?
They're tuning into our
I'm not gonna
podcast.
get my Bruins tickets next week. No, but like they email me right back. Yeah, no problem. If you wanna fight the fact that we think that your rate should be that, we need you to put together all the documentation proving that those guys only do that kind of work.
Right,
and I'm like, wait a second, wait.
Yeah.
You're like, the reason I pay you guys is to do this, right? Like, why wouldn't I just go?
They
directly
set the hook, brother.
Right.
And they just pulled it tight.
So yeah,
Like-
so I started talking to another insurance company, and they're like, absolutely not. Like, we would never do that. Like, you need, like, if you want us, we'll draft that refusal letter for you. And like, I don't even want your business. I just, like, that's so wrong, like, wrong business.
Wow.
And it just, but it's been in my inbox.
Right.
Haven't touched it.
But like that stuff's what, like, we always talk about what wakes you up at 2 a.m. I don't know what that's one of those things that was like, I want the coverage. I want to make sure I have that, and I don't want to be overpaying. And the suck part of that whole thing is then, like, I said to those guys, which I hated, I can read a lot of emails, but like those guys, like, cutting them off, saying, hey, no, they're like, we should renew. And I'm like, you know what? I found a cheaper quote. You know, no hard feelings. You know, I thought you brought your best foot forward, and I was able to save this amount of money, and I was able to get more coverage, meaning I wasn't covering my laptops. I wasn't covering the equipment in my truck, like the drone. So they got me $10,000 worth of coverage that between the laptops we have, phones, and all that. And I was like, dude, like,
Right.
I'm not pulling the
And
wool over anybody. But then he texts me back and he's like, you know, he sends me a handwritten, like,
Oh,
note.
God.
Yeah, and I was like, you know, I was
Is
trying to,
that
like,
blue ink? Oh my god.
I was like trying to go the other direction at hockey, like I saw him, and he's just like, you know, I could have done better, and I'm like, that's not the point.
All right, I hate talking about insurance. Let's change the subject.
Yeah.
All right.
What else can we talk about?
I was curious, Jeff, for your reasoning. Nick said you have a fair amount of carpenters on staff.
Yeah.
John's always asking Nick, you know, why not sub?
Right.
Keep guys on staff. Why do you want to build a team with everything in house and have the stress of keeping that many guys busy, of owning that labor, of the overhead involved with that? What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, so I think it was maybe Tim last week when I was listening, and he was talking about the Christmas party, right? He brought up his Christmas party. So our Christmas party is such a blast. You know, we had,
He does it just for
we
the Christmas
probably
party.
had 80 people at our Christmas party. We're out there dancing, everybody's hooting and hollering. And, you know, we take a group picture every year, and I just love having a team. I really enjoy having a team, and it's worth it to me. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out where to place everybody. You know, if we have a house, if we're building a big house, you know, all right, I don't have to worry about these 10 guys for 3 months, you know. But right now we have a bunch of remodels going on, so it's a constant jockeying. Oh, these guys are finishing up over here. So I spend a lot of time making sure I've got some place for everybody to go. But it's just really, I love seeing everybody with my shirts on. You know, I love the sweatshirt. I love the gear. I just like the whole team concept of it, and I like the family aspect of it. And I also like the control of it. So, you know, we've been doing a couple of projects for this old house, and, you know, imagine asking the subs, hey, you guys got to wait because they gotta do a scene here, so you can't get your work done. And, you know, it's just really about control. I mean, it's probably cheaper the other way, but I just really like it. Not everybody is a true employee. A lot of the guys that we have, well, probably a third of them are just sort of full-time 1099 guys, but they're, you know, for all practical purposes, they work.
So
pretty
how
for
much
us.
stuff do you self-perform?
Did you ever sub workout, like carpentry? Is there a difference for you as far as quality goes that you think having that control in-house, or having those guys kind of owning that in-house, or you never had an experience with that?
Well, you know, no, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I started as a framer, so I started, you know, self-performing.
This is pre-1990?
No, this is
Okay.
from, you know, 1990 to you know, when I sort of took the tool belt off, or the bags as you guys call them. I probably did that in about 2003. So I was full time. You know, we probably had a 3 or 4 man crew for all that time, and we did our own work. when I came out of the field and, sort of went to the office, there was a point there where we had a lot of houses going on, and we hired some framing crews. And it works. It works. You don't have that complete control. Like, I want to, we all like things a certain way. We all have our little stickling points, and we want certain things done a certain way. And it's hard to tell a guy that you signed a contract with to frame your house, and it's, he's trying to make the living, and he's trying to get, speed and everything. And so that's
you're pushing them to go the extra mile.
Yeah. So that's really why we self-perform all of that, because I just like to do certain things a certain way, and maybe it's slower, but in the end, I at least know that somebody cared all the way through, and that's just how it evolved.
I mean, I feel obviously I have the same mindset, just on a much smaller scale. Just because I feel like, I don't know, I still feel personally that I have to be in the field and still have to have the tool belt on. As far as experience goes, my customers, the product that I want to put out, I just don't think I'm on that level. Do you think that, I feel like there's so many guys who are getting into this now, guys or girls, who want to pull the belt off and just manage.
Yeah.
And you did it for 13 years prior to doing that. Do you think that a lot of people are just like looking to kind of chase what's ahead of them and pulling their belt off too soon and looking to manage without having either the experience or the tools in place to be doing so?
Yeah, that's a good question. You can take, like I have guys that come to me that have gone to school, they've gone to a construction management degree, and I think you guys have construction management degrees, and I've had guys that have come to me straight from school with no field skills at all, and it's not that they're less valuable at all. They might bring a whole nother level of project management to the table. They don't have to know how to frame a wall. They don't have to know how to run crown molding or whatever. That doesn't necessarily take away from their skill set or what they're trying to bring. But so all of our project managers are sort of homegrown. So all of the guys that project managers have been with us for a long time, and they all started low, and so that gives me the ability to see guys as they get older, and I say, you know what, this guy, I can see he's got management, he can look big picture.
Yeah.
He can think on his feet, he can look big picture. Where there are other guys, that, hey, it's 3:30 and I'm out of here. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to, I just want to do my work, put my head down and do what I do. So, it's about recognizing one guy's skill set from another and realizing who's got potential to manage and who's got potential just to be a field guy. So I don't know that I answered the question exactly, but I think we.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, I think that everyone wants to move faster than they really should be moving, personally. I think that, especially owning a company, like, what was your reasoning for staying in the field for 13 years? Was it to gain that experience? Was it because you didn't think that you could back away and put people in that place? You still obviously want that control. So when you're in the field, you have the control that you're right there. And you, obviously, that's something that's important to you, being that you're trying to home grow and keep everything under your umbrella, which resonates with me. My biggest issue is my umbrella is so small because I still want to be there. I still want to be in the field. I don't want to back up and manage because I feel like I lose control at that point.
Right.
And it's tough for me if I try and manage and not be in the field, nothing's getting 100%, and I feel like nothing's turning out 100%. It would have to be me taking just straight management or tool belt on.
Right.
And I personally don't feel that I'm at the point in my career that I'm ready to take my tool belt off.
Yeah. Well, so I'll try to answer that in a roundabout way, but basically when I started and I had a tool belt on, I mean, I don't forget, I didn't know anything. So I'm learning on the fly, and I learned by hiring guys that knew more than me. So I was always the weakest link on the thing. And so I made up for it, and you know, I brought the physical game, you know, so I'll hump lumber, I really did everything, and I just really enjoyed framing. I just, you know, to me it was an athletic event. It was like, all right, today we're standing 4 walls. And there was no time clock then. It was like, when the 4 walls are standing, we're going home. It's not 3:30, leave this one. So I really enjoyed it. Plus I was learning along the way. And, you know, that it got to that point where I had to make a decision. And I think you're probably you'll get to that point. You guys will all get to that point where you say, do I want to build a business, or do I want to build a great home building team? You know, so for me, as much as I loved building houses physically, I think that I really thrived on building a business. And so that's the difference. Like, I'm sure I could have gone on and been very successful as a one at a time home builder, taking a house from frame to finish, and, you know, go to the next one and go to the next one. But I couldn't say no, right? And I just enjoyed the building the business part of it. And, you know, every once in a while, and I'll pick my days, I'll go out and put my tool belt on and go hang with the guys, and I just have a blast. And they like it too. You know, it's fun.
So with that, do you think that do you think the product that you had, did you sacrifice anything from when you had a tool belt on to when you started managing?
I would say no, not at all, because I was too interested in speed. Like, I think the guys were like, all right, now that he's out of our hair, we can really fine tune it. You know, like, you know, when at that time I was like, yeah, we're up on the soffit on the second floor. Who gives a, you know, let's just run this fascia. You know, I mean, so. And I think that the guys, I can sit back and say, no, this is not how I want you to do it. I want you to string that and plumb cut every single, you know, tail, you know, whereas I might not have done that, you know. So I had the luxury of being able to say, don't do what I was doing. I'm stepping away from this so that we can go to a higher level.
Exactly.
That's
so
exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
It's like, you just Ken and the guys in the shop, like, yeah, I could build cabinetry, but they can build cabinetry way better than I can, and that I ever could. And like, I think that was it is the most rewarding thing.
Right. And I dabbled in just about everything, so we did everything, you know. But, you know, back then, finish was like, it was like a 2-week event. You know, you hang doors, you install the cabinets, you're running base. You know, there's really not a lot to it. I mean, you go in that house that we just went in, you know, my head would be spinning. You know, and I mean, I can do most everything. You know, but I can't do most everything well.
Yeah.
You know, I got guys in the shop. I got 25-year-old Riley Partridge down there. He could run circles around me in the finish world. And, you know, the guys out there, I mean, and I love it. And I'm the first to admit it. Like, these guys are killer at, you know, some of the stuff we do it amazes me. I walk through jobs and go, wow, wait, Jesus, we do that? But, you know, so I had to circle back, Tyler, you know, I mean, it took me coming out of the field to say, okay, now that's what I did, but what do I want, and where do I want to be?
Different perspective.
So now I want to put people in place to get us to that level. I want to put the pieces together to get us to accomplish what we were after.
If we asked Bruce if he thought having carpenters on staff versus hiring carpenters, what would his answer be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. So our operational method is cost plus.
Yeah.
And we're completely transparent. Mm-hmm. You get everything. Yep. You get every invoice. And all the guys have an app on their phone. It's called Busy. And it's GPS driven. So they get to a job site, and when you get within a 500-foot boundary of that job, you log in, and GPS will pick you up. And so it's a timekeeper.
Yep.
Right? So at the end of 2 weeks, when we invoice the customer, they get the timesheets. So everybody's got their time in. And So it's really transparent that way. So, and we just add it all up. Each guy has a rate, and then we get a 15% markup at the bottom, and that's how it works. So I would say that if we were doing fixed price contract work, I would say that Bruce would encourage all day long. You get a price for the pack,
But he's indifferent now.
But it's different because we use the guys to our advantage, and because we have such a great team and such a great group of guys. I mean, that's what attracts our clients to us. So when I walk clients through a job and they see all the guys and everything, they say, that's what I want. That's the level of detail. That's the level of caring. These guys they're hugging the next, the people that we just built the house for. I mean, that's the kind of, that's what I want. I want to see that, so I just ran with it in a different direction. I mean, I absolutely hate the word change order. Right? It just gives me anxiety because I know it's like, that's going to be how much, like I'd rather just, the house is just one big change.
I always call it an upgrade now.
Yeah.
Because
it's a dirty word.
You're doing cost plus, but you guys are aiming for a specific budget from the get go.
Yeah, we don't. It's not a blank check. It's not a wing and a prayer. I mean, there's a very specific budget that's prepared in advance, and we follow that budget. So every 2 weeks, you take the initial budget and you subtract out of that budget each line item as it draws across, and that just keeps going every 2 weeks for the remainder of the project.
About you're at that point, then you're somehow budgeting the labor aspect of that. How close are you guys generally from what you're kind of budgeting for your labor to what it actually winds up being?
Yeah, good. That's a good question. I mean, it gets better and better every day, but it's hard when you're doing really high-end custom homes because, this roof might have a sweep to it all the way around, and it's really hard to say, how many hours did it take to do all of that sweep work? And, we can get close, and we can, take historical information and try to, extrapolate it and put it into the next budget. But so what ends up happening, to answer the question, is that we have an initial budget, and we might be high on one thing, and then we might be low on another thing, and we might be high on another thing. And the goal is not to be too far off in any direction.
It all goes back into the pot.
Yeah. And the house has changed, so we go through and the house that you guys went through today, it didn't look anything like that when we started. The millwork package inside was, it was relative. We start off pretty basic because we designed that house. We didn't get too deep into the design of the cabinetry and the casework until the job evolved a little bit. So there was no way for us to budget the amount. But we'll take a new crack at it as we get down the line, as we approach it, and we decide, well, we want a custom kitchen here. So, we re-budget that phase of the project and, keep plugging in.
So how does that work I feel like in my head that you have the guys on site and then you have project managers that run that job. Is it the project manager's job to then work with Bruce and the budget to where you're at for the frame crew, whatever you're self-performing? It's not like run the guys, let them loose, and then you get the invoice, because that's going to be an awful conversation for the PM to have with the client. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that they're going to basically see what you're targeting, and then kind of relay, hey, you guys got another 2 weeks left of the frame. Right. And then if there's any change orders, let's back into it. That way we know what's going on. We added that flare, or like the garage we went into today with the timber frame roof. I'm like, I don't care how much information you have beforehand.
You couldn't have figured that.
You couldn't put a number on it. So is that how it goes? And then as you get to because you also do your millwork and your cabinetry indoors, in house, is that when the PM kicks it to the design team?
Well, the nice part about having everybody on that team is that you got multiple people involved in the process, and they're all got the same goal. They all wear the same shirt, right? They all got the same name on the front, even though the name on the back's different. So the interior designer is talking, to we have meetings and everybody's there. The interior designer, the interior architect piece, Bruce, the project manager, it's a round table as to how we share this information so that everybody's really on the same page. And then the client is speaking to all of those people in that circle at different points during the job. So, we kind of get the feedback, from multiple sources. So
you know what I love about that, though? As you're talking and as we met everyone today, it's like, instead of it, like what I find is your approach is more result oriented. Where if I have a designer that's kind of their own identity, they're in the game.
Right.
To build for design.
Right.
They're not in the game to find a solution for you.
Sure.
Okay, same with the architect. If they're all different parties.
Right.
So everyone's going to kind of, I found that as the economy's gone crazy, everyone's in the game to kind of stretch out and milk because everyone's so busy.
Right.
That, hey, this design's going to be an extra 3 weeks.
Right.
They're billing for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we're getting clients that have $100,000 budgets or plus for landscape designers.
Yeah.
Architects.
Yeah.
Interior designers, and they're like, at the end of it all, they're not solving anything for me.
Yeah.
And clients are seeing through that now. And I love how you have it all in house where it's not like, well, I want to bill X amount of hours for design. It's like, no, I need to help so-and-so solve this issue so the overall product can go.
Sure.
And I love that.
And it's you summed it up precisely because that's really how it works. And I'm not advising everybody to go out and hire their own interior designer. It just works for us. And I'm not advising, because, there are thousands of interior designers out there that are freelance that do a wonderful job. And I certainly don't want to diminish what they bring to the table. But to your point, like, because we're all talking to each other along the way, we're solving each other's problems every day. Yeah. And we have that budget talk along the way, and we can explore different options. And I've been in situations where a house is over designed in some way, or over there's some, but we've had our bumps in the road. Believe me, before we had sort of that capture on all of those phases, Kristen might be out shopping with tile, and you get carried away, right? Oh, look at that stuff. That's good. It's only $10 a square foot more, but let's do it, and let's do this, and let's do that. But meanwhile, she might not be talking. She might not be bringing the budget talk into the mix, and before you know it, we're 20% over in this one category.
Yeah.
So we've had to bring everybody back to the center of the circle and say, we got to have the client at the center. And we're all working around, and everything's got to go back to the client, whether it's what the expectation of the product is or whether it fits in the budget or anything in between there.
Yeah, I think that's, I could speak, to that. That is the biggest disconnect, is that things get designed, and if they're not, like, the financial impact or the schedule impact that matter.
Yeah, good
it's
point.
like when there is that disconnect, it's like everyone that's within our umbrella, like, they're all speaking to each other and making sure, like you said, solving each other's problems. And then, we work with great architects and interior designers, and they do a great job, but they don't have that direct, like, I'm in the office, is this going to cost more conversation on the fly. It's like, hey, we changed the design, client already approved it, we just need to update the budget. It's like, all right, well, the budget just increased by 10%. Well, we didn't expect that.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you supposed to say at that point?
Right. No, it's again, I'm not advising everybody out there that doesn't have all the services in house to go out and do that.
No, but I think it's a more traditional model where, like Johnny, like we've talked about before, it's like a lot, like the model has shifted in home building itself, is that a lot of it is strict management. And like you guys are strict management, you aren't self-performing. And like where I've, and like Tyler said, like we are self-performing. We're self-performing all the carpentry and the cabinetry.
And I think I love, every one of these podcasts, Tyler, right now you're freaking me out because half of this conversation is you telling me that I need to, you didn't tell me this, but this is how I heard it through the podcast, is that, why not have guys in-house? And this is catering that, but then, in the same verse, like, do I have a tool belt on? Should I do more internally? Should I have more guys on site? Because it might, if I brought in a 3-man crew that did finish the frame, that would solve half my chasing I'm doing right now.
John, we talked about this last year. It's like, I think what Jeff is doing is what you and I have always, like, you always said you want to do what Tom Silva does, is that he wakes up and he decides what he's doing.
Yeah, snap his
And
glasses on.
you just said that. You're like, some days I just put my tool belt on and I hang out with the guys.
Yeah.
I've tried to do that, and you said that your guys like it. My guys do not. I get in the way, and they're like, dude.
Well, I think that they like it.
Yeah, you know what? True. They're very vocal. They're like, dude, Nick, just let us do, like,
go for a walk.
You have to go. You have to figure this out all over again. Like, you have a million tools in your tool belt that don't make sense. Like, come on.
Right.
But I think that is the ultimate goal, is that, like, you build this enterprise, not just a company that makes you survive.
Yeah. That network doesn't, like, right now, that network can be defined internally or supplemental with having people come in with
and it doesn't mean you have to have in-house guys. Doesn't mean that you have to be 45, 50 people. Doesn't mean you have to be one person. But the ultimate goal is that you wake up, and, or at least in my eyes, that you have a little bit of freedom where it's like you're not wearing multiple hats. You wake up and, like, you obviously know your task, but when, like, if you want to throw the tool belt on, the business is gonna run.
Well, you know what's not freaking me out, Tyler? Maybe it was the wrong thing, but it's like
out.
this. Well, there's so many things, like, we jump back and forth meeting. Like, if you're not strong in one suit, then you should bring somebody in. That doesn't mean they have to be an employee. Like, when I went and did the bookkeeping thing, she's a 1099 and she does it remotely and it works out perfect. But sometimes, like, I am dancing with this idea. Like, I love how I'm not romantic about it, but having carpenters learn under me, I the whole team thing.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like I've gotten to the point where everything is just outsourced for me.
Yeah.
That it's just kind of how it is for me.
It works. Yeah.
But it's
You
just
could just have a Christmas party and invite me. Probably way cheaper.
You're probably right. But I feel like I need to think about that bigger. Where, I mean, I've thought about it all year. Is that, like, my framers, they're like $4,000 to $7,000 a week, and I've been cutting them checks almost the entire year. So it's like having somebody in house.
Right.
So the only thing stopping me from doing that is really myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the root of this entire podcast. Is like we were all getting in our own way.
Yeah.
At one point or another, and it's just either getting fed up.
Right.
Or
so here's the
aggravated.
difference, and I agree with you, and I probably trading dollars. The dollars would be the same. The 4 to 7 a week is it
Exactly.
It's either way, right? So the difference
But there's
is
less burden, I feel like.
tomorrow
on me.
we're going to get 2 inches of rain, right? It doesn't take anything off of you.
Nope.
You don't have to worry one bit. So when I know we're getting 2 inches of rain, I'm like, all right, I got 14 guys. I got to figure out what to do. And the last thing I want to do is keep them home and not let them earn their paycheck. So I make a commitment to them, and I want to say, all right, tomorrow we're going to frame in the shop. So we got all these window assemblies we're going to do. We're going to make it work. Or I know one of the other jobs, we're running a whole bunch of V-groove on the ceiling, and I know I can plug guys into that. And so that's a constant, especially in New England. I mean, it's the weather.
Give it a half hour, it'll change.
Yeah. So I understand what you say, and I know a lot of guys that are very successful, and they're sort of a management team only, and they sub everything out. But it gives you time to sort of lock up your and have a tight ship with your contracts and your agreements with them and your scheduling, and I think it enables you to do a lot of different things that I can't because I'm constantly worried about guys.
Yeah.
When you have 50 people. You're
big.
a marriage counselor.
Yeah.
You're a therapist. You're everything.
You're a bad guy.
It's there's a lot. There's always somebody with something. And good, bad, or indifferent. People lose parents and spouses and dogs, and I mean it comes with a lot. So all of that takes time that in your scenario you're not worrying about.
And I think that's until I can basically break off enough people where it's a PM or whatever that I can actually wrap my head around it. I would love to be able to do more of the carpentry in-house, where I do think that the guys I have now are great, but I do think that their work is subpar for what we can actually pump out.
Yeah.
I think if I brought in a 3-man crew that were from Evoke Tech, don't get me wrong, I think the learning curve, if I have a senior guy on there and 2 guys that help, I think the learning curve would be, pretty abrupt in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I think after a year, of understanding it, I think the product we could probably deliver would be so much
Right,
better. And if I could get them to also do interior trim, that would be that would be lights out, because then the creativity part of it becomes endless because it's my own numbers.
Yeah.
So guess what? And this, I'm listening to all of this, and so if you guys do this, you guys continue this podcast in 20 years, right? You're gonna have this podcast. You're gonna be talking about the exact same thing.
Episode 2100 here.
It's the exact same thing. It's constantly, I always called it evolution, right? So the company evolves, and, you go in one direction and that's not working, so you move the other way. And it's a constant moving,
you adapt and you move and shake.
Yeah. Next year, we're going to bring somebody in-house, we're going to do this. And then that doesn't really work out. So, you know what, we're going to go back to subbing everything out. And then, I really don't like that. And so it's constantly going to be moving.
Well, I think that also goes with that bell curve of the economy.
Of course.
Right now, everyone's so slammed that it'd be like, I'd rather take the burden of having 3 carpenters on staff than me making 15 phone calls for what? Like, Benny needs punch list stuff. There's so many open-ended stuff that's keep me up that it's like, what am I doing? And it's just, so having, my new guy actually called me and said he's coming on board next week, which is, he basically, which I love, is that he had his own company shutting it down.
Yeah.
And then he had to wrap up a month's worth of work that he had committed, which said no problem. And he's like, I'm going to be done, a couple weeks early, so let's do it. And I'm like, can't wait. So it's like, I'm anticipating, like, it's almost like being held back in a fight. Yeah. It's like you're holding me back.
Opening the gate.
Like, let me out. Yeah. Like, if it's going to open up, like you said, 4 hours. We talked a little bit earlier about, like, when you were coaching your kids' sports and then your kids went to college or whatever, and you weren't coaching anymore. Yeah. You were like, God, I got 4 hours of my life back every day. It's like, same thing. It's like, what will that employee or that subcontractor open up for me? And I'm like, I don't know. I should really write it down. What I'm anticipating he's going to take off my plate for time. Sure. So that way I can gauge it. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to this year of what can happen with growth, whether it's internally or outside. What I wish I could focus on. Yeah.
Let's actually touch a little bit on that family lifestyle and how that all fits in your. Because I want to give you guys the backdoor advice that I learned from, this whole cycle is that first thing is that you have to be patient, right? You're both 20 years younger than me, right? So I see exactly where I was when I was that age, and I couldn't even fathom to say what's my life going to be like? What's my business going to be like in 20 years? But now looking back, now I can offer some advice to you guys, and that is, first of all, it's not going to happen overnight, right? Construction is such a slow-moving thing, but, constantly have that vision of where you want to be, and, every day you got to grind toward that. It's always about where I want to be next. And then the second thing is that you both have young kids, and I just, from my upbringing, my dad was always there coaching me, and so that was a no-brainer for me. Like, as soon as Ryan got to T-ball, I'm diving in, right? Yeah. And to your point, the nice thing about coaching is it makes you accountable. So if you're, you got to leave the job. Hey, we got practice. Yep. I gotta be there. I can't be late. So I coached for probably 10 years, and it was all through Little League and then travel ball and all of that stuff, and I was always the organizer. I was always starting these new teams, and all the way through. I mean, we had an indoor baseball place, we had all of these things. I wouldn't give it back for the world, but I managed. I got my work done, I got my time in, I got, and it was easy with clients to say, hey, I got a coach, that people understood that. Yeah. But then when it all kind of came to an end, and that time all of a sudden freed up, I'm like, geez, it's 4:00. I got 3 hours left in my day, So that's really when the business planning stage 2 started to kick in, And so my other advice to you is to make sure you stay fit along the way, so that when all of that does stop, and I did I had athletic background up to about when I was 25, right? And then all of a sudden, abrupt halt, and I started working, I started framing. So that was my physical activity. So then when I took my tool belt off, I started going back to the gym, right? And so that's my morning ritual. I'm in the gym every single morning. But now here I am 55 and I'm, I'm ready to go. I can hang with the best of them, but that's because I kept, I ate well. I work out. I'm ready for life, so I got a lot more left in me. And, that's what I want to give to you guys is that, enjoy your family while they're here, while they're young, because they're not going to be that young. It's amazing how fast it goes by. And it's incomprehensible to think about that. I remember people saying that to me, and I'm like, but now looking back, it really does go by fast. You got one shot at it. So spend that time, because you got so much long life ahead of you after,
they grow up.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that plagues me all the time is trying, like having that fear that I'm not going to be present, that I'm going to look back 15 years from now and that I'm so hyper-focused on what I'm doing that I'm going to look back and wish I had done things differently, which it's tough for me to just focus on what's going on now and not worry about those things down the road. I feel like I've always struggled with that, especially, I don't know, I have never had a son, but I have this feeling with my daughters, like I want to be there for them and I want to be a good dad for them. And it's tough for me to try and have that divide between work and them. And I feel like work always takes precedence to them, even if you're physically there. If I have something that's on my mind, it's like I'm a robot.
Right.
And it's tough to be able to separate those two. I'm still struggle to do that almost daily.
Yeah, no. In fact, the other night when I was, we were trying to work out the arrangements for you guys to come down, and I texted Nick and I said, "Hey, you got time for a quick call? I just want to go over a couple things." He's like, "Oh, I got the kids are here. My wife's traveling. It's just chaos. Let's talk in the morning." And I totally appreciated that. I was like, hats off, especially again when I had kids, when my kids were your kids' age, we didn't have cell phones then. So there really wasn't that level of distraction that there is now.
It's crazy.
And, I mean, it's all relative. I mean, you guys have their own thing, but it was definitely different. But just to be able to, put your phone on airplane or whatever, and it can wait. So I have this funny thing now, like a lot of people use text, right? So clients use text, and it's okay, but I get these texts at 11 o'clock at night, and so now I put my phone on airplane, right? And so I wake up, I'm up at 4:30, so I get up at 4:30 and in come the texts, right? So I start replying to them. I'm like, all right. I'm right back at you. So their text is ringing at 4:30, and but back to your point, Tyler. I mean, I can't stress it enough to you guys. I've never been motivated by money. I always had enough to do the things that I wanted to do. But I can promise you that this time is short with your kids, and it doesn't have to be coaching. I mean, it's helping them with their homework. It's reading to them at night. It's it's whatever it is you do. Just that time is just you can't put a price on it.
It's really tough because it's when they're asleep, or it's 2 days later, or you think about it leading up to that, and the prospect of all of that seems, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to turn my phone off, and then when it actually comes down to it, it's like, all right, I'm going to sit down and read in bed with you, and I get done a book, and I'm sitting there like I just finished the book. Obviously, it's a kid's book. It's not that engaging, but I realize the entire time I'm thinking about what I have to do, or what once they go to sleep I have to do, where I have to spend that 15 minutes like I should be completely engaged with them for that 15 minutes rather than thinking about what's on my crap list to do.
Yeah.
And it's just when you're in it, it's so hard to kind of actually see what's going on and analyze what your brain is doing at that point. It's not until like I get done where I sit there and I have 2 seconds to kind of reflect and be like, I just spent 20 minutes in their room, and instead of enjoying that, hey, this is 20 minutes, I don't have anything else to do, I'm thinking about how I can get them to go to sleep so I can go get done my crap
right.
sooner.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest struggle for me, where it's just almost giving up and saying, okay, like I'm not going to do anything. Like I'm just going to focus. And when I get to that, I get to that.
Yeah.
That's the toughest thing that I struggle with.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I wish I had the magic answer because I'm sure I did the same exact thing. And it's so much easier to look at this stuff in the rear view and say, But I just give it to you the way that I see it, and that is enjoy the time. And I think for me, and you guys probably everybody probably experiences this. Like, you're 35. You don't think about, hey, when I'm 55, I'm going to get out and kick ass again. You don't think that way. You think, oh, I'm next step for retirement. And it's really if you keep yourself fit and you stay after it and you eat well, you take care of yourself. You got a lot of runway left after that point. And I literally had to tell you, like, as a wholeness in my life, like I can't think of a happier time in my life than I am right now in every regard. I'm stronger than I've ever been, right? I'm fitter. No, I wouldn't say I'm fitter than I've ever been, but I'm pretty fit. I mean, I love my family. I love my wife. I love my company. I get up every morning and say, I'm ready to kick out of it. So, and that's just, I want you to resonate with that, to say that, all of that stuff exists. So don't rush it. You got so much time, and
it's still going to be there.
It's going to be there
for work, meaning
right.
It's always going to be there.
Just, I mean, as blunt as it may seem, why help us? Why give us this advice? I mean, I have a father who doesn't give me this sound of advice. What? It's not that I want to say, hey, he's this smart of a businessman that he wants to come on a podcast, and it's like it's genuine enough that you can see, like, why did you invite us up? I know I wasn't able to make it, but what's your reason for that? I feel like a lot of the older generation, or the people who did this before us, or who are at a different stage of their career, they don't want to help us.
Right.
And what makes you different?
Well, that's a really good question. I would say that I know how much effort it takes to have what you guys experienced today. I know how much effort that went into it. And I could give everybody in the world every single piece of knowledge that goes into that formula. But I know also that 99.9% of the people aren't willing to put the effort in that I've put in.
We say that all the time.
So I'll give you all the secrets. It's just like, these self-help books and these you see every exercise on the world on Instagram, do this, this, and this, and you'll look like that. It's all there, right? But it's the effort. It's the relentless effort every day to get there.
Like Johnny says, it's the execution. Like, I'll give you what I do, but you're never going to be it's never going to match my execution,
right?
Good or bad,
right? My athletic background. So we'll talk hockey for a minute, but it's not hockey.
I'm not
it's
supposed
rowing.
to. I'm not supposed to. It's like a drinking game for people.
I know it.
Whenever I talk hockey, they start drinking.
So when I was in college, we had, rowing was a new thing, so rowing in college, you can pick it up at college level and be successful at it. So I just got lucky with a good group of guys, all similar, and we won a national championship, right? So you take that from there, and then the goal was, well, let's continue this and the goal was to try to make the U.S. national team after that. So that was a 4-year cycle, right? So I went from being maybe successfully at the regional level the first year, and then successful at the national level the next year, then trying to make that national team, and then trying to go to a world championship. So I spent 4 years trying to be the best in the world at something, right? So that's ingrained in me. Every day I'm like, how do I get to the next level? There's a guy out there doing it, and I'm going to be better. I'm going to put that effort in every day, trying to be. So fast forward, after that, like, that's how I want to do everything.
Yeah.
Right? So I have this saying that it's really such a simple saying. It's one of my favorites. And it's, how you do anything is how you do everything. Right? So think about that for a minute. How you do anything, how you sweep the floor, how you leave your job site, how you do anything, right? You put, so it's the amount of effort that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that measures you as a person. How you do anything is how you do everything. So everything I do, I try to be the best at. And it's not anything to do with ego.
Nope.
It just has to be satisfied. You know, so, you know, I kill it in the morning with guys that are half my age. And it's not because I'm trying to show them up. It's just I just want to be the best at it. Plain and simple. So the same applies to my business, you know. I want to be the very best home builder. I want to build the best homes. I know I'm not there yet. Still climbing. So I don't know if I answered the question, but we talked a lot about it, you know.
It's funny that you say that too, because I feel I've always said that a lot of people who are successful, they found their path, but they would have been successful had they taken another career path. I don't always think that it, like, there's a lot of times the natural ability and everything else, but so much of it is just who's willing to put forth that effort. You know, had you not fallen, you got into the home building or construction industry with no experience. Had you gotten into something else, I feel like you're the personality type that you still would have been as successful.
The drive was always there.
Yeah, the drive was always there. It didn't matter what
I think that's the majority of people that are successful. Yeah, they're in a certain career, and there are doctors and people who are extremely intelligent, way smarter than we'll ever be. But I think that most people who are successful, they'd be successful regardless of what they're doing.
Sure.
So we are on the podcast with Jeff Sweenor, Sweenor Builders, down at his shop, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
That was quick.
Want me to slow it down?
We just talked about slowing down and just relaxing and just
I'm relaxed,
flowing
bro.
through it.
I actually wanted to dig into something a little unrelated to what we've talked about thus far. We're in your shop, and we're actually down here. You did a pro-to-pro event with This Old House and Festool.
Yeah.
Like, why take the time out to do all that stuff? Like,
Yeah,
same thing. Like
that, like, and the whole, like, This Old House relationship. I think I'm curious. I'm just curious about it.
Yeah.
You just a big fan? You wanted to share it? Because you had to build two houses?
Move over.
So, well, it happened very accidentally.
The best things
Why?
do, right?
I feel like that's like This Old House thing.
Well, Kevin's thing.
He was
Kevin,
accidentally.
Yeah.
Total
Yeah.
accidental.
Right.
So really funny, really quick and funny story. So we moved to Florida, right? And friends of ours up here in Rhode Island said, "Hey, you gotta meet these people down in Florida. So they have a summer house up here, right? But I didn't know them up here. So we go to Florida and we meet Pat Quinn is his name. Right, so I meet Pat. We hit it off right away. Got along. We're the same age, same interests and everything. He doesn't know me as a builder, right? Had no idea what I do, right? He just knows me down in Florida, and I'm doing some things down there and whatever. He had no idea of my professional background. So, you know, fast forward, we moved back and we're doing our thing there, and so we get together with him in the summer, and they have a summer house in down here in Jerry Brown Farm. So he tells me one day, he's like, "Hey, you know, my next door neighbor up here is the CEO of This Old House, you know." He says, "Would you like to meet him sometime?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds great." Now, I literally grew up watching the show the whole time. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I watched it. I learned from it. So one Friday night, I gotten home, and we ate dinner, and it's probably, I don't know, 6:30, 7 o'clock. Had a cocktail going. I'm lying on the couch ready to plug in a movie, right? And my phone rings, and it's Pat. He says, "Hey, I'm over here having a beer with Eric at the Muse," which is literally a mile from my house. He says, "Yeah, you want to come over and meet him?" And I'm like, you know, I just lied down. I'm done. I'm toasted. So he's like, all right. Well, you know, some other time. I'm like, all right, no problem. We hang up. And my wife looked at me. She's like, "Seriously?" Send him a text. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." So I rallied. I went there, and you know, we chatted and back and forth, and you know, little did I know I was sort of being interviewed, you know, and so they said, Eric said, well, you got some of the ingredients that we like, we'd like to see how you do, see how you do on camera. And so they said, we're going to send Tom Silva down. Right? I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So they just said, think about something that you want to do. And,
so open-ended.
All the pressure on him.
Yeah, all the pressure. So I rack my brain like,
it's got to be cool.
It's got to be everything.
We got to impress
so
Tom.
That house where you guys were at today, the big house with the cool garage, the 2 weeks before, right? So we've got this rectangular deck in the back, right? He's like, can't you make that curved? And I'm like, oh, man, you don't realize how expensive that is, railings and everything follows that, So I thought about that and I said, oh, there's my Tom Silva thing. So I orchestrated this entire thing where we go to the job site and I walk him through what we're doing and then the change. And then, we got the shop and we had the ability to do it. I mean, we learned on the fly, but we figured it out. So we did that whole scene and, next thing you know, they asked me to get involved in the idea house, and then they shot a couple scenes there, and so then we did a show thing. So yeah, so I mean, I have no idea where it's going, and I don't have any expectations or any desired outcomes. I just sort of riding it for what it is, and it's a lot of work. You saw what we went through today, for that. I mean, we basically shut the shop down and we do all of this stuff. And I think the biggest takeaway from me is that it just adds credibility. And it, it really gives you, just credibility. This whole house is such a great brand, and it's a brand
of well-respected
quality. It's a well-respected brand. And so I said, you know what? I'll be associated with that and, see how it goes. And a lot of sacrifice, but, the good outweighs the bad in terms of the overall.
I feel like this is an obvious question, but do you ever get calls like, hey, we saw you on the show, we'd love you to build a house for us?
Not so much that direct, but, I think that it circles back.
Yeah.
It's brand awareness, meaning they know your name, they know your company logo because they've seen it. Right. They just don't know where.
Right.
Yeah.
And because this old house is such a strong brand of doing things right, and, that if the assumption is, well, if he's involved in that organization, he's got to do things right. Right. So it just gives you that credibility. And I'll tell you, it also holds you to a little bit of a higher standard too, because
that's good. That's what I like about what we do with, Doug, with video and Instagram alone. It's like we're taking pictures of stuff all day, every day. Yeah. So the quality has to be good, because the moment it's not, I mean, everyone's going to let you know. And I like that because it pushes everyone to be a little bit better.
Well, it makes you accountable.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I remember one of your stories, you were showing off your technique of putting the Cobra vent on the grills, and you're posting it on your story, and next thing you know, you get comment from another client, hey, how come you don't do that at my house? It's only the jobs you walk to that you do.
Yeah,
so
it's like, all right, now everyone gets Cobra.
That's right. You're held to a higher
it's
standard.
It's so true. Everyone watches it.
Yeah.
Like I did a post today. It's like, instead of being be valued, like I posted that, and not 15 seconds later, one of my clients said, you're not only valued, you're also liked. Like they watch. So you have to be aware of what you're putting out there.
And fortunately for me, I don't even know how to do a story. I don't know how to do what you guys do.
I think you're doing fine. You just film with this old house all afternoon. I think you got your own thing down.
I mean, I'm probably, I don't know, I probably had an Instagram account for, 6 months or so, but, I'm learning it. My daughter, Talia, is amazing at it, and she, you guys met her today. She's just a rock star at it, and she does great at it, but I'm fumbling with it. I'm posting the wrong stuff and trying to, how do I edit this,
That's so funny. But no, I mean, this is, honestly, man, like when we first got the email about what you had set up for today.
Yeah.
Like we were like, well, piggyback the pro to pro.
Yeah.
Come down because you're here, and like I know Nick was talking about meeting up with you no matter what, and I was like, dude, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And then when we got the email about like what you had for an itinerary, we both thought that's what this old house was doing.
Oh yeah.
So we were like, all right, it's fine. I'm like, I still got to work all day.
Yeah.
Then Nick called me after you talked, and I was like,
that was totally for you guys.
it's totally
I
fine.
was
I'm
like,
like,
yo guys, we gotta make this happen.
yeah. So I was like, you
I'm
know
going.
what?
I'll be there at 10. So.
Yeah, I was like, I had to do some things I had to set up already, some guys, and I was like, you know what? I'm making it down there.
Right.
And it's to be able to, someone that's seasoned as you, that has the reputation you have, and same thing with this old house, however you brand yourself with whoever you partner with, being able to open the doors to us.
Yeah.
And like nothing in return. It wasn't
Super
like
generous.
Yeah, that's like, and we had to jump at like being able to just freely ask people questions and then flip the laptop around and see your spreadsheets and like honestly to see that they're very similar to mine, I was like,
That
it's
was
just like a weight off my back.
Yeah, that was like being able to relate a lot of what we do and be like, all right, we are on the same page.
Yep. Same
but
path.
also same path.
Yeah.
But also like say like pick things like, all right, I can do that better, or like, oh, I could hire someone to help me with that.
Sure.
But like realizing that we're not going in different directions. We're very much on the same path, like
same
you said.
road, yeah.
Right.
And you're a few cars ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like to be like, it's super generous of you to kind of let us jump ahead and see like this is what's worked for us and this is what we're doing.
Right.
Almost just says like, hey Nick, like you're doing it right. Like
Right.
don't
change.
I just need to buy a bigger dry erase board. Like the one you have in the
I
other
need to
office
buy
is
a
huge.
dry
Isn't that
erase
awesome?
board.
It's amazing.
I mean that it is as old school, and I think I put out a stack of notebooks right on my conference table because like that there's no emails from that history. That's all notebooks. It's all writing. It's all
our company meeting this it was right after Christmas. No, I'm sorry. I think it was after Christmas. We handed out notebooks, and the guy's like, about time. I'm like, you guys all have iPads? They're like, dude, I just want
Old
a
school.
notebook.
Yeah.
You know when people ask me when they see, like, there'll be people that follow me and they'll show up to my job, like they'll just text me and they'll be like, so how do you do it? Like what software, whatever? And I just pull my notebook out and I'm like, it's this.
Yeah.
And it's 2 pens, black and blue.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's something about writing it down.
Yeah.
That whether you call me old school, romantic, whatever, it's just writing it down and then having to go back to it. And like even like that Friday morning, it's like, I'm going to crush today.
Yeah.
Get up at 6, whatever it is, tag a bunch of people with text messages, and then sit down in my car before I even leave my driveway and go, give me 10 things you want to get done today.
Right.
Write it down.
Right.
And I'm just me one-on-one holding myself accountable.
Yeah.
And then at lunch looking, all right, 4 things done, I can still do this.
Yeah.
But today was more like, all right, I got 16 years to catch your ass.
Yeah.
So like, what do I got?
Bring it on, baby. Bring it on.
That's what I'm looking
And
at.
I mean, to Tyler's point, that's why I'm so willing to share, like, because you guys are great guys, and it's just like our team, I mean, I'll help great people, and again, I give you everything. It's up to you to put the effort in, and I know that's the hardest part of it. So I'm not afraid of it.
That's the variable.
Yeah.
Is that some people will have, hiccups. They'll look at adversity and back down.
Right.
And there's different things where, I mean, obviously we'll have to have you on again because, like, I really want to dig into how you built your brand off of spec.
Yeah.
How you were able to then come back from Florida, buy up these lots,
Right.
control the land.
Yeah.
Whatever hiccups you had, but I mean, it worked.
Yeah. Well, we'll do another one. I mean,
Yeah.
I have. It's funny. I took a lot of pictures along the way, and I mean, back then, it's cameras. It's not you're on your phone. I mean, I'm grateful that I have all the pictures that I have, but I did this like history, and I did all of the houses like along the way. Not everyone, but like the highlight ones, and I could see it. There's this decade and this decade and this decade, and it'd be funny to walk you guys through, and you're like, what, that piece of crap after I saw what I saw today.
But back then you were probably like, this is the best
this is
I
the
got,
best
man.
thing. Yeah.
Like chest up high.
You don't realize it's just like anything else. When you're in it, it's you're doing the best thing that you can do at that
Sure,
point.
yeah.
And it's not until you grow or progress that you look back and you're like, what the hell was I doing? And why did I make that decision?
Oh, I could tell you some stories. Oh my God, some of the design errors. I mean, just everything, every bad move. The houses that I lost money on. Oh my God, it'd make your heart cringe. It just make you bleed. But yeah, so we'll do this again.
Absolutely.
I'm happy
Jeff,
to
this
do
was
it. It was
this
fun.
was awesome.
It was fun.
Unbelievable.
So
Yeah, you should tell these guys to give me more than like 18 hours.
sorry.
Notice
that was definitely Jeff. Well, it was definitely not Jeff.
No.
Nick called me yesterday and he's like, "So I just got off the phone with Jeff," and I was like, "Dude, I can't." I thought about it all day, and then I was like, I was nonchalantly planting the seed for my wife just to see like the reaction on the conversation.
Didn't take.
And then she was like, "Yeah, I mean, they know that you can't do that, right?" And I was just like, "Yeah, of course."
Well, you guys can come
idea.
you can come back anytime, you know. And furthermore, I'd like to go to your place. You know, I want to go check
Absolutely.
out what you guys are doing, and I want to learn some things from you guys. So
That sounds good.
yeah, we'll do it again.
So you're Sweenor Builders on Instagram, right? And
I
then-
think so.
You think so?
Sweenor, I think _Bill. I don't know,
Yeah,
whatever
I
it
think
is.
that
You'll
is right.
find it.
And then you're at Jeff Sweenor.
Yeah.
All the photos that he doesn't mean to post, but
Yeah, I try to mix it up a little bit, show a little bit about life in a round circle rather than, just business. So
Awesome.
And I think we can see you on this old house, right?
This old
Is it
house,
the current
yeah.
season?
What?
Yeah.
What are you guys? Well, not filming now, but what's on TV now? What project?
the project we did last year, a year ago, we did this project, the Net Zero project in Jamestown. And so there's probably 3 or 4 more episodes in that. And
I love that house.
It's a cool house.
It's
a
so
really
nice
cool
looking.
project. When you see the before and after, it's
Yeah.
a great project, and we had a great time on that project. The architect owners, they were wonderful to work with, and then so we're getting started. We're starting next week actually on a next season project, which is down in Westerly, Rhode Island. So that'll be fun too.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see you.
So you can find us on Instagram, _Modern Craftsman. Our website is themoderncraftsman.org. You can
Is
email
there
us.
W's in front of that or no?
World
Or
Wide
does it
Web,
not matter?
period, The Modern Craftsman, period, organization. You can email us at info@themoderncraftsman.org.
Yeah, and that can be like ideas, topics, questions you guys have for future guests. You guys shape this podcast, so hit it with DMs, whatever you want. Don't be shy, guys and girls. Please hit us up because it's going to help us shape future content.
And definitely, the shares on Instagram have been
Huge.
huge. And
Huge.
Doug, dude, we're every week, it's like we're just
Knocking.
progressing and going up and having more downloads. And, it's...
But we only grow this podcast, and this only reaches more people if you guys share it.
Right.
Where we walked job sites today, and there's carpenters and PMs that we literally got one of the PMs.
We
truck.
didn't even talk about Jeff. Yeah, we get in his truck and his phone syncs up, and all of a sudden it's John's voice on the.
It's crazy.
He's like, "You guys probably don't want to listen to us talk," but that was awesome.
So keep sharing it, guys,
Yeah, appreciate it.
and go to iTunes. You guys can find us anywhere, but iTunes. Hit us up with a 5-star review if you're loving it. If you're not, obviously hit us with the DMs and we'll correct it.
So
If you're not,
yeah, don't post it. Let us know. The Alexa we haven't mentioned, and I was actually in my kitchen the other day, and I was like, I've never tried that. So I was like,
Did it
Alexa,
work?
yeah, it went
Good.
right to the.
Yeah, so it's Alexa.
It's like
Really?
Alexa, play
the only
Modern
thing that's ever
Craftsman.
played on the only thing that's ever played on mine is I farted on Santa's lap because my daughter's just like nonstop. They're sitting there like just asking Alexa to play that. Like, it's not even Christmas anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we have Sedge up next.
Yeah, next episode will be Sedge from Festool, and it's Festool Sedge on Instagram. So stay tuned.
And thanks for listening, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.